Hello, my name is Amanda Hearn, and I'm a school psychologist. Welcome to the 4 types of stress and how to manage them. By the end of this presentation, you will better understand the 4 main types of stress you might experience and have identified some strategies to help you manage the situations that trigger stress for you. We encounter many types of stress in our daily lives to varying degrees. Even happy or positive events can be stressful at times. There are 4 main types or sources of stress we encounter most often. First, we'll learn a little bit more about each type, and then we will review some strategies to manage each one accordingly. In no particular order, the 4 types of stress are time stress, anticipatory stress, situational stress, and encounter stress. The first type of stress is called time stress. This one is probably the most familiar to you. You experience time stress when you worry about time or the lack thereof. You might worry about the number of things you have to do or that you'll run out of time to complete something. Common examples of time stress include rushing to avoid being late, worrying about a due date or deadline, staying up until the wee hours of the morning to get things done. These are all examples of time stress. The second type of stress is anticipatory stress. Anticipatory stress is stress that you experience when you're thinking about the future. Sometimes this stress can be focused on a specific event, such as an upcoming test, presentation, or something like the SAT or a homecoming dance. It's not always specific, though, and can sometimes feel more like an overall sense of dread or a worry about something going wrong or falling apart in the future. Maybe you worry you'll never get into college or that you'll be left behind by your friends. These are all examples of anticipatory stress. The third type of stress is situational stress. You experience situational stress when you're in a scary situation that you have no control over. This could be an emergency, but most often it involves conflict or worry about a loss of status or approval in your peer group or with your caregivers. For example, failing a test, not being invited to a party, or messing up an important play in a soccer game. It often appears suddenly when you find yourself taken by surprise in a situation you didn't anticipate. Like if a document fails to save last minute, you get sick in the days before a major assignment is due, or maybe you trip and drop your lunch in front of everyone in the cafeteria. These are all examples of situational stress. Last but not least is encounter stress. Encounter stress originates from relationships. You experience encounter stress when you worry about having to interact with a certain person or people. You may not like the other person, feel like they don't like you, or maybe they're people you encounter frequently in stressful situations. This can happen when you have repeated interactions with a teacher, for example, about a missing or late assignment, projects that involve group work with classmates with different work ethics, or perhaps you're in a class with someone you find particularly distracting or have a negative history with, like an ex or a friend you're arguing with. These would all be examples of encounter stress. Now that you know what the 4 types of stress are, take a minute to think about which of them you experience most often. It may be more than one, or it may change depending on the class or the environment that you're in, and that's okay. Now let's make a plan to tackle it. If time stress is your main concern, time management strategies are often the most effective place to start. Using a planner can help you list and prioritize your to-do list and schedule your time and energy well. The best planners are full-sized with both monthly calendars and daily time slots in 15-minute increments. If you're new to using a planner, take a few days to record all of your activities from the time you wake up until you go to sleep so that you can start to get a sense of how you use your time and where your day goes. If seeing your to-do list in a planner is overwhelming, the use of an Eisenhower grid can help you prioritize. And yes, it is named after President Eisenhower, who famously developed the grid to help with the many decisions he had to make in the Oval Office every day. To learn more about the grid and how it can help you, follow the link in the presentation. If the Eisenhower grid isn't for you, you're overwhelmed by the number of urgent and important tasks on your list, or you found yourself procrastinating, try using one of these approaches to get yourself started. Start with the most important to you task first. This has the advantage of letting you tackle something worthwhile and can help build your motivation. But beware, it can be a daunting place to start if follow-through is a challenge for you. You could also try starting with the smallest or shortest task. Starting with the smallest can create a snowball effect, a small win that can get you going and build momentum to start a larger or more challenging task. The drawback, though, is that you may never get around to the important goals if you run out of time focusing on the small stuff. Try starting with the repeat offender task. These are tasks that are perpetually on our to-do list because they get left for last every time and always feel undone. This can be a highly satisfying place to start and can free up mental energy enough to silence that inner nagging feeling that might keep us from doing something more productive. Lastly, you could try doing the task that might have the biggest impact first. These tasks may not necessarily be the most important, but they're the ones that will make the most immediate and largest impact on your life, or perhaps carry the greatest grade value. This approach can be particularly helpful if you're trying to get caught up after an extended absence. When you find yourself worrying about what might happen and are experiencing anticipatory stress, try using strategies like visualization. Instead of envisioning the things that might go wrong, think about what could go right, even if you don't believe it at first. Your brain can't tell the difference between real and imaginary in these scenarios. You could try using the worst enemy voice. If you're prone to negative self-talk, try imagining how you would react if it was your worst enemy saying those same things to you. Would you believe them? Would they have as much credibility? Meditation and mindfulness practices can also help. They can keep you in the moment instead of letting you get tangled up in the what-ifs of the future. Developing a contingency or backup plan in case things go wrong can also help relieve stress about the future. Focusing only on your sphere of influence and reminding yourself that some things are out of your control or influence can also help you focus on steps you can take to meet your goals and reduce your stress. And lastly, don't forget to use your social supports. Friends, teachers, caregivers can all help you with these strategies and offer encouragement, a safe place to talk things through, or give you a helping hand when needed. If you're prone to situational stress, start with knowing and recognizing your signs of stress. Signs of stress may vary greatly from person to person and can be things like increased muscle tension, talking faster, freezing, or even laughter. If you find you're beginning to experience a stress response, take a pause to cool off. When you aren't under stress, create a list of your strengths and talents. Then, when you start to recognize your signs of stress, remind yourself in the moment that those strengths and talents are tools that you can use to help get you through the situation. Take responsibility for what was in your control or influence and let go of what isn't. There are many things in our daily lives that happen that we have no say in, but we can't always control how we choose to respond to those events. Then, once you've determined what you can influence or change in a situation, even if it is just your response, use your strengths and talents to brainstorm things you can do in the future to help prevent that situation from happening again, or to encourage a different outcome. Lastly, take a minute to forgive yourself and others. Mistakes and accidents happen all the time, and there's no shame in knowing more today than you did yesterday. Use your social support networks for encouragement and humor to help reframe the situation and recharge. If you most often find yourself experiencing encounter stress, strategies like bringing a supportive friend or trusted adult along for the encounter as a buffer can help. Building a repertoire of phrases that can help difficult conversations, like, interesting point, I need more time to think about that issue, or I hadn't thought about it that way before, I'd like some time to consider your feedback before I respond, can be helpful, particularly when receiving feedback from teachers. Using assertive language with your friends and classmates can also help. If you'd like to learn more about developing your assertiveness skills, follow the link to watch a video that can help you get started. Otherwise, focus on your listening skills. Ask clarifying questions and use your support network as a buffer. Psyching yourself up for a difficult encounter can also be helpful. Try using self-talk to frame the encounter in 4 stages. First stage is preparation. I've handled tough situations, and I'm working towards my goal. Excuse me. Second step, confrontation. I can stay calm and focused. This person is human too. I know myself and I know my goals. Think about your response. Remember to relax and breathe deeply. Strong feelings are to be expected. You can control your response. And lastly, think about your overall response. You get through it, the problem can be resolved, and the encounter will end. You can relax. And remember, repeated encounter stress can lead to burnout, and burnout in turn can lead to avoidance and disengagement. Make sure you're also practicing activities that fill your bucket and recharge your batteries while you're developing these skills. Building a repertoire of stress management strategies can take time and practice. Sometimes we all need someone to bounce ideas off of or ask questions of when we're learning new things. If you're interested in learning more about these and other strategies for managing stress, you're feeling stuck, or you just want some feedback on your progress from someone you trust, your school counselor or psychologist can be a great resource. We're here to help, so please come see us. It was a pleasure creating this presentation for you today. We hope you found it helpful.